السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأصلي وأسلم على الرسول الأمين وآله الطاهرين وأصحابه الأكرمين وبعد. Inshallah ta'ala, tonight we'll be speaking about the camel. Now, the camel is an animal that you find is mentioned in the Quran in many places, and it's also mentioned in the Sunnah in even more places. There's so many places where the camel is mentioned, right? When it comes to the battles of the Prophet ﷺ, there's camels mentioned. When it comes to just living, and having day-to-day activities, you find that during the life of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, and in the narrations that we have, that you find camels are always mentioned because they were such a common part of the life of the Arabs. Now, around the world, camels are mainly in Africa and Asia, right? These are the locations that you would find camels. And there are mainly two main types of camels. And there's one type of camel that has one hump, and the other type of camel has two humps, right? So a camel can either have one hump or two humps. Now, can somebody tell me, what's the use of these humps? Why do they have these humps? Yeah. To store water.
They use fat to protect themselves from heat.
They use what?
They have fat in those humps to protect them from heat.
Ahsanta. That's the right answer, right? That's the right answer. It's not water. They're not storing water in their humps, but they're storing fat, right? They're storing fat, right, for energy and to help them in the heat. So, camels, I'm just going to list some facts about camels so that we know exactly what we're talking about here, right? So camels, they can survive for really long periods of time without eating or drinking, right? So this is why they were such a great resource for the Arabs, is because they can use it for traveling, and they would be able to travel for long distances without being tired and without needing food and water. Normally, animals, when they lose 25% of the water of their body, right? We all, as we drink water on a daily basis, the food that we eat, we retain water. So the camels, they're unique because other animals, when they lose up to 25% of our bodily water, we can die from dehydration. But camels, other animals, they would, if they lose up to 15% of their bodily water, they die. But camels, they can go to an extent where they could lose almost a quarter of their water, of their bodily water, and that they would not die. So in terms of other animals, when comparing, camels to other animals, they can endure, a lot more time and a lot more distance without having water. Now, when camels can drink, right? When they drink, in a 10-minute time span, right? They drink a lot. They can drink up to 100 liters. Right? They can drink up to 100 liters in 10 minutes. That's a lot of water, right? I don't think there's any human possibly that can drink that much. We're way too small, right? And camels, they can grow up to 7 feet, right? They can grow up to 7 feet, and they can weigh up to 500 pounds. So they're huge animals. They're big, right? And personally, me, I've never, besides the zoo, I've never, ridden a camel or touched a camel before. Maybe, some of you here have, but I haven't gotten that opportunity yet. Inshallah, soon, inshallah. Besides being able to cope with the hot weather of the desert, they are also able to survive in cold weather as well. That's because they have very thick fur, and they are. The way that their body is made by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're able to withstand harsh conditions, right? So not only are they able to survive in really hot weather, they can also survive in really cold weather as well. Because as we know, sometimes the desert, especially during the nights, can get really cold, right? It can get really cold. So camels, Allah Azza wa Jal has made them in such a perfect way that they're able to live in this condition. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed us to benefit from these animals. And we know that throughout history, camels played a huge role, right? Camels played a huge role, whether that be in trade, whether that be in travel, and it really helped humans live, in these harsh conditions. Now, in terms of some, cool facts about camels. Like we have, one eyelid per eye. But camels, they can have like multiple layers of eyelids to protect them from the sand. And you guys know, especially, if you're in a sandy place and sand is blowing or dust, right? It can easily get in your eyes. But camels, they have multiple eyelids that can protect their eyes from the sand. They don't eat any meat, right? Camels, they eat certain type of plants, right? But they're herbivores and they don't eat other animals. And in terms of an average lifespan of a camel, they could live anywhere from 40 to 50 years, right? They could live from anywhere from 40 to 50 years. So this is just, a brief summary of just some facts that we, should know about, some general facts that we should know about the camel. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He asks us in the Quran, right? And He says, أَفَلَا يَنظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ, right? Do they not look at the camel and how it was created? So this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects from us, that we're going to look at these things, right? We're going to look at the creations that He has made, and these things should lead us to worshiping Him even more. Now in terms of some ahadith, right, I'm going to focus on a few things tonight, and I'm really going to focus on, the majority of this talk will be about the people of Salih, Thamud, right? But before that, I want to get into some specific issues, concerning the camel. There is, we make wudu for salah, right? Before every salah, we need to be in a state of purification. We need to be in a state of spiritual purification, right? So in terms of our wudu, there's certain things that break our wudu, right? I want somebody to, tell me a few things that break your wudu. That would
Sleeping.
Sleeping, right? Deep sleep. You lose your consciousness, your wudu is broken. Meaning, if you go to sleep, right? If you made wudu and you go to sleep, and you had a dream, right? You slept for like a half an hour. If it was a deep sleep, we're not talking about you're in and out of sleep, like you're still conscious, right? That's one thing. That doesn't break your wudu. But once you're in a deep state of sleep, right? You lose consciousness. You can't hear anything around you. You have no idea what's going on, right? So this, you can distinguish between deep sleep and just like a very light, nap, like if you doze off. But if it's a deep sleep, right, and you've made wudu before you go to sleep, if you wake up, you have to make wudu again. Right, so if it's a deep sleep, good. What else?
Eating camel meat.
Good, eating camel meat. We'll get to that one. What else?
Using the bathroom.
Good, using the bathroom, right? Anything that comes out of the private parts, right, from the front or back passage, then that breaks the wudu. Anything else?
Passing gas.
Good, something that comes out of the private parts, right? Passing gas. Anything else? Come on, that's it? Vomiting? There's some difference of opinion concerning that. But in terms of eating camel meat, right? In terms of eating camel meat, it was narrated in Sahih Muslim by Jabir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu. He said, "Su'ila an-Nabiy sallallahu alayhi wasallam." He said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was asked, "Ana tawadda'u min luhum al-ibil." Somebody came to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam and asked him, should we make wudu after eating the meat of the camel, right? Meaning, if we eat camel meat, does that break our wudu? Do we have to make wudu after eating camel meat? So the Prophet ﷺ said, "Na'am." He said, yes. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ is telling them that if you eat camel meat, you should make wudu. Right? You should make wudu after that. I'll take your question just now. Then the person, he says, أَنَا تَوَضَّأُ مِنْ لُحُومِ الْغَنَمِ أَنَتَوَضَّأُ مِنْ لُحُومِ الْغَنَمِ. After eating the meat of sheep, right? After eating, lamb, for example, right? Would that break my wudu? Do I have to make wudu? The Prophet ﷺ said, "In shi'ta," if you want, right? Meaning it doesn't break your wudu. You don't have to make wudu, but if you want to make wudu, you may do so. So from this hadith, this is the evidence that many of the scholars, they use to prove that if one eats camel meat, then they would have to make wudu. Okay? Now this, comprises of, many different parts of the camel. Whether or not, the milk of the camel, whether or not that breaks your wudu, that's, there's some difference of opinion concerning that. But in terms of the meat, right? The meat, the fat, the things that you eat from the meat of the camel, if you eat the meat of the camel, then you should make wudu after doing so. Now in New York, I don't know, is there any camel meat restaurants around here? I don't think you can get it anywhere here, right? So unless you travel somewhere else, you travel to an Arab country, you travel to, a country in the East, maybe then you can get maybe then you can get camel meat. But in terms of New York, where we live here, that's not something that you would ever have to worry about because we don't have camel meat here, right? Not that I know of, right? Dawood, you have a question?
And if a dog licks you, your wudu breaks.
Not exactly. When a dog licks you, right? When a dog licks you or licks your clothes, then you should wash that area, right? But there's no evidence that suggests that it breaks your wudu, right? There's no evidence that suggests that it breaks your wudu. Now, another very important topic that a lot of people, they have, it's maybe some people can see it as controversial, some people can see it as problematic. There is a, question that people ask, after reading some hadiths, and that question is it permissible to use camel urine for medication? Can you use camel urine as a cure? Now, there is a hadith that is recorded in 5 of the 6 books of hadith. I want somebody to tell me, what are the 6 books of hadith? The scholars, there are 6 main, most popular books of hadith, and they're all agreed upon. I want somebody to tell me, what are the 6 books of hadith? Okay, good. Bukhari, what else? Muslim, what else? You got 2? Nope. Tirmidhi, Sunan al-Tirmidhi, good. What else? You got 3?
Abu Dawud.
Good, Dawood. Abu Dawud, right? What else? You got 2 more. Ibn Majah, awesome. What else? One last one.
Nisa'i.
Good, Sunan al-Nasa'i, right? The 6 books of hadith, right? So we got Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawud, At-Tirmidhi, Al-Nasa'i, and Ibn Majah. Sunan Ibn Majah. These are the main 6 books of hadith. This hadith about using the camel urine for treatment is in 5 of the 6 books of hadith. So this hadith you find in Bukhari, this hadith you find in Muslim, this hadith you find in At-Tirmidhi, An-Nasa'i collected it, and Ibn Majah. The only book of hadith that I didn't find this hadith in is in Sunan of Abi Dawood. But without a doubt, nobody can deny the authenticity of this hadith, as Imam al-Bukhari and Muslim recorded this hadith in their collections. Now the hadith is as follows. Some people, they came to the Prophet ﷺ, right? Some people, they came to Medina, and they accepted Islam. And they pledged allegiance to the Prophet ﷺ. Now these people, they weren't accustomed to the climate, right? They weren't accustomed to the weather in Medina, to the environment. So they became sick, right? They became sick. Now, the Prophet ﷺ instructed them to go to an area, and there are camels in this area, and the Prophet ﷺ told them to drink the milk of the camels as well as the urine of the camels. Right? To drink the milk and the urine of the camels, right? And this is something widely known amongst the Arabs, right? This was something that they've used for a long period of time, right? And it was known to have a healing effect on the body for sicknesses. So it was narrated even in the hadiths that record this narration, this incident. Many of the narratives of the hadith mention that after they finished drinking the milk of the camels and the urine of the camels, they became healthy again, right? They became healthy again. Then after that, something strange happened. These people that drank the urine of the camel and they drank the milk of the camels, what they did is that they left Islam. They apostated from Islam. Then they went to the companion, radiallahu anhu, who was the herdsman of these camels, right? He was the shepherd of these camels. He was taking care of these camels, and they murdered him. Right? They murdered this man, right? After they've murdered him and they stole his camels, right? After they've murdered this man, this companion of the Prophet ﷺ, and they stole his camels, the Prophet ﷺ, when he found out, he sent some people after them to capture them, right? Because they just murdered a companion and they stole his camels and they left Islam. So the Prophet ﷺ sent some of the companions after them to capture them, and when they captured them, they were executed because of the crimes that they had committed. They stole and they committed murder and they left Islam. So this was what happened to them, right? So the point of the story that we're going to get to is the Prophet ﷺ, he commanded them to go and to drink the the milk of the camels as well as their urine. Now somebody might find this is weird, right? This is strange, right? Drinking the urine of a camel, right? But for thousands of years, this is something that the Arabs, this was something that worked for them, right? This was something that worked for them, and it's very popular even to this day, to this day. And I personally know somebody. I personally know a woman, and she had cancer, right? She had cancer, and she used the urine of a female camel, right? A virgin she-camel, and she used the milk of the camels as well, and she had breast cancer, right? She had breast cancer, and she was telling us that, because she used this as treatment, eventually her cancer went away, right? Eventually her cancer went away. So it's, definitely, many people after, treating themselves with the urine of the camel as well as its milk, they find that they've, received, treatment from this, right? From whatever sicknesses that they've gone through. So, there's many studies that have been done, especially in the Arab countries, especially in many universities, such as the Al Jazeera University in Sudan, in Saudi Arabia. They've carried out many laboratory tests, and these studies prove that camel's urine, it contains a high level of potassium, proteins, small amounts of uric acid, sodium, and creatine. And they're used, the camel urine, it's especially good to treat swollen livers and diseases of the digestive system and to treat wounds, right? So it's something that is established, that it does have a benefit, right? And it does have the effect of treating a lot of ailments that afflict humans. So, this is just something that I wanted to add, as it's something that a lot of people, they've never heard about. That's firstly. And some people, when they hear this, they feel that it's kind of weird, right? Now, one may say, like, what's the point of making wudu from the meat of the camel, right? And many people, they want to mention, benefits or reasons as to why we should make wudu from eating the meat of the camel, right? They say that, eating the meat of the camel, it has an effect on the body, on your behavior. And when you make wudu, it kind of cancels out that effect. But all of these things are not established, right? And we don't know of a reason why. So we don't know why. As many of the scholars explain, we don't know why Allah Azza wa Jal and His Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam commanded us to make wudu from eating the meat of the camel. We don't know why, right? But anything that we find out that Allah Azza wa Jal or the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has commanded us to do, we must obey. As Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, He says about the believers, سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا, that we have heard and we have obeyed. So that's the thing, we don't look for a reason, we don't look for the scientific, miracles, all of these things, right? Those things don't really matter. But what matters is your submission to Allah, because you're created to submit to Allah, right? You're created to worship Allah Azza wa Jal alone and no one else. So this is what, the most important point of this, is that whatever we hear about, we should have good thoughts, right? That's first and foremost. And we should also submit, and we should believe, because we believe that the Prophet ﷺ doesn't speak from his own desire. وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ, as Allah Azza wa Jalla says, إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ, it is only a revelation that is inspired to him. Now, I want to get into the most common place of Allah Azza wa Jalla speaking about the camel in the Quran, and that is concerning the story of Salih alayhi salam and the people of Thamud. Now, Salih alayhi salam, he was from a people, and they were called Thamud. This was the name of the place that he lived in. And the people of Thamud, they were mushrikeen, meaning that they worshipped idols, right? They didn't worship Allah Azza wa Jal alone. Rather, they worship Allah Azza wa Jal and they associated partners with Him, right? So they did believe in Allah Azza wa Jal, but they associated and they worshipped idols along with worshipping Allah. Now, where is Thamud? Right? Thamud is located in the Arabian Peninsula, right? It's located in the Arabian Peninsula, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that He has caused the people of Thamud to inherit the land after the people of Ad was destroyed. Now, what prophet was sent to Ad? Nope, not Salih. We're talking about the Ad here. Prophet? Yeah, prophet. What? Good, Prophet Hud alayhi salam. So Prophet Hud alayhi salam was sent to the people of Ad. Right after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed Ad, after Allah Azza wa Jalla destroyed them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused a new people to inherit that land, and that was the people of Thamud. Now when they were disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when they were committing so many sins, first and foremost they were committing shirk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to them Salih, someone from their own people. So Salih alayhi salam, he came to them and he preached to them what every messenger preached to their people, and that is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone and not to associate any partners with Him. Now, just in summary, the people of Thamud, they requested from Salih alayhi salam that he brings them an evidence, a proof, right? Because people, they want to see a miracle, right? They want to see some evidence that he's the messenger of God. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a camel to them, right? A camel, right? A huge camel, a huge female camel to these people as an evidence. And we'll see, when we mention more details about it, how exactly this happened. So after Salih alayhi salam came with this camel by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they saw the miraculous nature of this camel, Salih alayhi salam told them to leave the camel. Don't harm the camel, right? Do not cause any aggression to the camel. Do not harm the camel in any way. Do not kill the camel. So eventually they disobeyed Salih alayhi salam and they slaughtered the camel and they killed the camel. So after this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought down upon them His punishment, and Allah Azza wa Jalla destroyed them. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the story of Salih alayhi salam and Thamud in many places in the Quran. Allah Azza wa Jalla speaks about it in Surah Al-A'raf, Surah Hud. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about it in many other places, in Surah Al-Naml, in Surah Al-Shu'ara. Allah Azza wa Jalla mentions them in many places, Surah Fussilat, and so on and so forth. Allah Azza wa Jalla also speaks about them in Surah Shams, right, which is in the last juz, which many of us have already memorized. So if you want more details, inshallah, you can read the tafsir of Surah Shams, Surah Al-A'raf, and many other of those surahs, inshallah. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He mentions the story in many different places of the Quran, and we'll try to summarize all of the ayat, inshallah, or most of them. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَإِلَى ثَمُودَ أَخَاهُمْ صَالِحًا. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, and we have sent to the people of Thamud their brother Salih. Meaning Salih was from the people of Thamud, right? He wasn't some foreigner that came. He grew up amongst them, right? And he witnessed their shirk. He witnessed whatever evils that they were doing. So he was best suited to address the problems that face his people because he was from them, right? So Salih alayhi salam, Allah Azza wa Jal made him a messenger. قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهِ. Salih, he told his people, O my people, worship Allah. مَا لَكُم مِّنْ إِلَهٍ غَيْرُهُ. There is no ilah besides Allah for you. There is no God besides Allah for you. Meaning you don't have any God besides Allah. Right? Why are you worshiping these idols? Why are you worshiping all of these things? Why are you calling upon these things that cannot hear you and that cannot benefit you or harm you? So Salih alayhi salam, he called them to the tawheed of Allah. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, He tells us that every single prophet called their people to tawheed. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in Surah Al-Nahl, وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتِ. And we have sent in every single nation, Allah Azza wa Jalla has sent a messenger calling them to the worship of Allah Azza wa Jalla alone and to avoid taghut, avoid all false gods, avoid all types of shirk with Allah Azza wa Jalla and worshipping others besides Him. So Salih alayhi salam, he told his people in Surah Al-A'raf what every single prophet told their people, and that is to worship Allah Azza wa Jalla alone and not to associate any partners with Him. This was the call of Nuh alayhi salam. This was the call of Ibrahim alayhi salam. This was the call of Musa alayhi salam, Eesa alayhi salam, and the final prophet and messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Then Salih alayhi salam, he goes on to say, قَدْ جَاءَتْكُمْ بَيِّنَةٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. A sign, a clear evidence has come to you from your master. هَذِهِ نَاقَةُ اللَّهِ لَكُمْ آيَةٌ. This is a camel that has come to you from your, this is a camel that has come to you. This is Allah Azza wa Jalla's camel that has come to you as a sign, as a clear evidence. فَذَرُوهَا. So leave it. Do not harm it. So he says, فَذَرُوهَا تَأْكُلْ فِي أَرْضِ اللَّهِ. Leave it to graze in the land of Allah. وَلَا تَمَسُّوهَا بِسُوءٍ فَيَأْخُذَكُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. And do not touch it with any type of harm. Don't even come close to it with any type of harm. Leave it alone. Let it eat in the earth. Let it eat from what Allah Azza wa Jal has provided it. Let it drink from the earth of Allah Azza wa Jal, and do not harm it in any way. And then he says that if you do this, if you harm the camel, a painful punishment will come to you. So Salih alayhi salam, he's telling them that this camel is a sign for you to believe in Allah, and it's also a test for you. It's also a test. So the people of Salih, they were commanded not to harm the camel in any way. And Salih alayhi salam, he warned them very clearly that if you harm the camel in any way, a painful punishment will come to you. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He even tells us what Salih alayhi salam told his people. He says, وَاذْكُرُوا إِذْ جَعَلَكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ مِنْ بَعْدِ عَادٍ. Salih alayhi salam, he told his people, and remember when Allah Azza wa Jal made you successors after Ad. Because after Ad was destroyed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the land to Thamud. Allah Azza wa Jal gave the land to Thamud. So Salih, he's saying that remember the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He has made you successors after He has destroyed Ad. He has made you successors of this land. وَبَوَّأَكُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ. And He has established you in the land. تَتَّخِذُونَ مِنْ سُهُولِهَا قُصُورًا. And in the plains of this land, right, in the flat lands of this land, they would make great structures. They would make castles. وَتَنْحِتُونَ مِنَ الْجِبَالِ بُيُوتًا. And in the mountains, they would carve. In the mountains, they would carve in their homes, right? So they would, however they would do it, but they would carve inside of the mountains, and they would live in the mountains. So they would make their homes from the mountains, and they would carve and make their houses. So Salih, he then says, فَاذْكُرُوا آلَاءَ اللَّهِ. Remember the bounties and favors of Allah. وَلَا تَعْثَوْا فِي الْأَرْضِ مُفْسِدِينَ. And don't cause corruption in the land. Don't go around causing mischief, right? And corruption in the land. So Salih alayhi salam, he reminded them of the blessings of Allah, right? He reminded them of the favors of Allah, because once we realize the favors of Allah Azza wa Jalla upon us, this drives us to worship Him more. And this was the way, the hikmah and the wisdom of the messengers, is that they would constantly, not only warn their people, but also give them glad tidings. Also tell them that which will, make them have desire, the desire to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So many things happened between Salih alayhi salam and his people. They even tried to murder him, right? They even tried to kill Salih alayhi salam. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He mentions this in Surah An-Naml, right? Allah Azza wa Jal mentions this in Surah An-Naml. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, وَمَكَرُوا مَكْرًا وَمَكَرْنَا مَكْرًا وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. And they plotted, and they schemed, and they made their plots, and we also plotted while they were heedless. They didn't even realize. Because this is the way, this is what happens to those who plot against Allah Azza wa Jal and His religion, is that they may plot, and they may plan, and they may try to do this and that to harm Islam and the Muslims. But they don't realize that Allah Azza wa Jal is the best of planners, and Allah Azza wa Jal is the one that is in control of even their lives and their plans. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they planned, and Allah Azza wa Jal too planned, while they were not realizing. They had no idea. Right, so they were planning to kill Salih alayhi salam. They said that we're gonna plot in the night, and we're gonna go and kill him and his family. Right, we're gonna kill Salih alayhi salam and his family. So not only did they try to harm Salih, but they tried to harm his family as well, and they tried to kill him and his family. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, فَانظُرْ كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ مَكْرِهِمْ أَنَّا دَمَّرْنَاهُمْ وَقَوْمَهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, look at the end of their plotting. Look how their plot ended up. That we have destroyed them and their people all together. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed the people of Thamud. Now, they even accused him of witchcraft, right? They said, قَالُوا إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مِنَ الْمُسَحَّرِينَ. In Surah Al-Shu'ara, they said that you are only from those who have been afflicted by magic. Now, there are two ways of reciting this ayah. One way is they say, is reciting the ayah, قَالُوا إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مِنَ الْمُسَحَّرِينَ, with the fatha on the ha. Musahhar, the word musahhar means the one who has been affected by magic, right? So you can have a magician and you have a person who the magician is doing the magic to. The musahhar with a fatha on the ha, musahhar, is the one who has the magic done upon him. So they accused Salih alayhi salam of being musahhar, right? Of being somebody who is bewitched, that some magician has casted a spell upon him and he's gone mad. And the ayah can also be recited as musahhirin with a kasra. And the meaning of musahhir is a magician himself. So not only did they accuse Salih, not only did they accuse him of being bewitched and being mad, but they also accused him of doing magic to others, right? And practicing witchcraft himself. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He frees His messengers from this. And Allah Azza wa Jalla says in Surah Al-Dhariyat, كَذَلِكَ مَا أَتَى الَّذِينَ مِن قَبْلِهِم مِّن رَّسُولٍ إِلَّا قَالُوا سَاحِرٌ أَوْ مَجْنُونَ. Allah Azza wa Jalla says that no messenger has come to them from before except that they accused him of being a magician or a madman. No messenger came except that they said that he was a madman or he was a magician. He's somebody practicing magic. So the people of Salih were no different, and they accused Salih alayhi salam of practicing wizardry. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He frees Salih alayhi salam from this, and their accusations were false. Now they were even bold enough to tell Salih alayhi salam, because they disbelieved in him, and they said, فَأْتِنَا أو فَأْتِ بِآيَةٍ إِن كُنْتَ مِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. They said, bring us a sign, right? They said, oh, you're the messenger of Allah, right? You think you're some kind of prophet? Bring us a sign, right? Let's see if you're really, if you're really a prophet, right? Bring something if you're from the truthful, right? So when Salih alayhi salam, they all gathered together, as Ibn Kathir mentions in Qasas al-Anbiya. Ibn Kathir mentions the story that all of the people of Thamud, they gathered, and Salih alayhi salam, he advised them, and he tried to, guide them to the right path. And they asked him for a sign, right? They said, bring us a sign. And, you want to be a messenger, right? You're a messenger of God. You're some kind of fancy, messenger of God. Bring us a sign. So Salih alayhi salam, they pointed to a rock, right? They pointed to like a big rock, and they said, you know what? If you're a messenger of God, make a camel come out of that rock, right? Make a camel come out of that rock, right? We want to see, you bring an actual real camel outside of that rock. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He allowed this miracle to happen as a test, right? And before the camel was brought out of the earth, Salih alayhi salam, he asked them, will you believe me if the camel is brought out? And they said yes. They agreed to believe if they saw the camel. But as soon as the camel came out, and it was a huge camel, when this huge camel right before their eyes, right, something that they have never seen before, right, it was a miracle from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As soon as they saw it, a few of them believed, but most of them disbelieved, right? Most of them disbelieved. And we know this, that the majority of mankind, even the kuffar, even the mushrikeen, even those who don't worship Allah Azza wa Jal as though He deserves to be worshipped, they do believe in Allah. Even Fir'aun knew that what Musa alayhi salam was preaching and calling him to was the truth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in Surah Al-Naml, وَجَحَدُوا بِهَا وَاسْتَيْقَنَتْهَا أَنفُسُهُمْ ظُلْمًا وَعُلُوًّا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that they rejected what Musa alayhi salam was calling them to. Musa alayhi salam was calling Fir'aun and his people to the truth. And they knew that it was the truth. And their own selves were certain of it. But they denied Musa alayhi salam, and they called him a liar out of dhulman wa out of transgression and out of arrogance. So these people, after seeing this miracle, they knew that Salih, that he wasn't just some regular human being, that he was a messenger of God. But because of their arrogance, because of their conceit, they rejected the truth. So we have to make sure that we don't have any of these characteristics. If somebody comes to us with the truth, we don't have any right to reject that because of that person, right? Because we're arrogant. We don't feel, this guy is younger than me, right? How does he know how to pray? I've been praying like this for 50 years, right? I've been doing this for 50 years. I've been making wudu like this for 50 years, right? I've been practicing Islam like this for 50 years. It doesn't matter. You could be 90 years old. That doesn't mean that you have all of the truth. If a young person comes to you and they bring you clear evidence, you are to accept it. Why? Because if you don't, and if you reject the truth from this person, then you are having a characteristic like those people who rejected their messengers. You have to be aware of this, brothers and sisters. So, Salih alayhi salam, he told them to leave the camel, right? So, Salih alayhi salam, he said, نَاقَةَ اللَّهِ وَسُقْيَاهَا. Salih alayhi salam, he said, leave the camel and let it drink, leave it alone. Let it eat, let it drink, let it live in the earth. Don't harm it, don't bother it. Eventually what they did, they plotted and they eventually came to the point where they slaughtered the camel. Right, the most evil of them came forth and he slaughtered the camel. And all of the leaders, they agreed to this. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, فَعَقَرُوهَا. So they hamstrung this camel, right? They cut it at the legs and they killed and they slaughtered this camel of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now Allah Azza wa Jalla, He describes this camel as naqatullah, as the camel of Allah. Now when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He attributes something directly to Himself, Naqatullahi, the camel of Allah, then that is because of tashrif, it's because of honoring of that thing. It's showing that this is not just a regular camel, but it is Naqatullah. This is the camel of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they slaughtered this animal, and Salih, he told them, فَقَالَ تَمَتَّعُوا فِي دَارِكُمْ ثَلَاثَةَ أَيَّامٍ. Salih told them, after they slaughtered the camel, to stay in your homes for 3 days. Right? To wait for 3 days. Right? ذَلِكَ وَعْدٌ غَيْرُ مَكْذُوبٍ. That's a promise that will be fulfilled. And it's not a false promise. Right? It's not something that will not be kept. So Salih alayhi salam told them, so they slaughtered the camel. Salih alayhi salam told them to wait 3 days. Right? You guys are being so arrogant. Right? It's come to the point where you won't accept anything. Right? So they slaughtered the camel, right? The sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. And Salih alayhi salam told them to wait 3 days. So 3 days passed by, right? And Ibn Kathir, he mentions the characteristics, how they were for these 3 days. So on the 3rd day, right? Ibn Kathir mentioned that their faces, became black. And they were like, worried, right? Salih told them 3 days, wait 3 days. So on the 3rd day passed. And in the morning, they were like happy. Because now, hey, Salih has a liar, right? He told us to wait, 3 days. Nothing's happened. So they wore their nice clothes. They wore their nice perfume. And they came out. And right then, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed them. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed them. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, فَأَمَّا ثَمُودُ فَأُهْلِكُوا بِالطَّاغِيَةِ. As for Thamud, in the beginning of Surah Al-Haqqa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَأَمَّا ثَمُودُ فَأُهْلِكُوا بِالطَّاغِيَةِ. As for Thamud, then they were destroyed by At-Taghiyah. And the Mufassirun, they mentioned that they were destroyed by At-Taghiyah. And At-Taghiyah is a sayha. It was a loud sound, right, from the sky that completely killed them instantly. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also sent upon them an earthquake below them. So Allah Azza wa Jalla destroyed them with a huge, blast, right? A huge sound that just completely destroyed them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused an earthquake beneath their feet. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says that not everybody were destroyed. Not everybody were destroyed. And this is the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that He saves those who have believed. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes those in this life and the next who have disbelieved. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saves not only in the next life, but in this life those who have believed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in Surah Al-A'raf, فَلَمَّا جَاءَ أَمْرُنَا نَجَّيْنَا صَالِحًا وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ بِرَحْمَةٍ مِنَّا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that when our affair came, when we destroyed Thamud, we saved Salih and those who believed with him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved Salih and saved those who believed with him. And Allah Azza wa Jalla destroyed those who disbelieved. Allah Azza wa Jalla says that we saved Salih and those who have believed with him with a mercy from us. وَمِنْ خِزْيِ يَوْمِئِذٍ. And from the humiliation of that day. Right? They were humiliated. Because imagine this, that after 3 days, right? After the 3rd day, they were happy. They're like, you know what? Look, Salih is a liar. But then the punishment came. Right? Then the punishment came. And they were humiliated on that day. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, Inna rabbaka huwa al-qawiyyu al-aziz. Indeed, your master, your Lord is al-qawi. He is the one that is truly strong. No one's strength is like the strength of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He is also al-aziz, la yaghlibuhu ahad, that no one can overcome Him. When Allah Azza wa Jalla decrees something, and when He wants to bring a command, none can return it. None can remove that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the mighty, al-aziz. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He also says, in Surah Ash-Shams, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He briefly mentions the story of Salih and his people. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, كَذَّبَتْ ثَمُودُ بِطَغْوَاهَا كَذَّبَتْ ثَمُودُ بِطَغْوَاهَا. That Thamud كَذَّبَت, that they denied and they rejected their messengers, and they denied their messenger بِطَغْوَاهَا, with their transgression and with their overstepping the bounds. كَذَّبَتْ ثَمُودُ بِطَغْوَاهَا إِذِ انبَعَثَ أَشْقَاهَا. When they, the most evil of them, the most wretched of them was sent forth to kill the camel, right? إِذِ انبَعَثَ أَشْقَاهَا فَقَالَ لَهُمْ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ نَاقَةَ اللَّهِ وَسُقْيَاهَا. And their messenger told them, Salih told them, leave the camel alone and let it drink. فَكَذَّبُوهُ فَعَقَرُوهَا. So they denied him, they disbelieved in him, فَعَقَرُوهَا, and they slaughtered the camel. فَدَمْدَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ رَبُّهُمْ بِذَنْبِهِمْ. And then their Lord destroyed them because of their sin, فَسَوَّاهَا, and completely annihilated them. فَكَذَّبُوهُ فَعَقَرُوهَا فَدَمْدَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ رَبُّهُمْ بِذَنْبِهِمْ فَسَوَّاهَا وَلَا يَخَافُ عُقْبَاهَا. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not afraid of the result of that. Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who is just. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed them, not because of wrong from Allah Azza wa Jal, but because they deserved it, and they were given chances, and they were given opportunities to believe, and they were given opportunities to accept the truth, but they rejected it. So because of this, and because of their wrongdoing, because of their murder, because of their slaughtering of the camel, because of their shirk, because of all of the sins that they've committed, they were destroyed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, inshallah ta'ala, we're gonna stop here. Right, we're gonna stop here. And inshallah, I have a few questions, right? I have a pop quiz for you guys, inshallah. And after I've asked you guys a few questions, then you can, inshallah, ask me whatever questions you guys have. And I'm going to ask you guys a few questions, inshallah. The first question is, are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Billy, you ready?
Yeah.
Inshallah? Okay.
Yeah.
So first question is as follows. Who was the nation that Allah made Thamud a successor of? Meaning, who was the nation right before Thamud? Raise your hand. Ismail. Aad. Good, awesome. Here. Make sure you catch it, right? I hope I don't hit anybody. Bismillah. There we go, mashallah. Good, mashallah. So the people that Allah Azza wa Jal made Thamud a successor of was Aad. They were right before Aad. Sorry, they were right before... Thamud was right after Aad, right? Thamud came after Aad. The second question, what prophet was sent to Aad? Raise your hands. Nobody call out. What prophet was sent to Aad? Sister Humaira. Hud. Ahsanti. This is really far. Dawood here. No, give it to Sister Humaira. Okay, good. Awesome, right? Question number 3. What was the location of Thamud? Where did they live? You don't have to give me like precise location. This is what we mentioned in the lecture. Ibrahim.
In the Arabian Peninsula,
There you go.
a few miles north of Medina.
Ahsanta, mumtaz. Good, even more specific. Here, make sure you catch it. There you go. MashaAllah. Jazakallah khairan. طيب, question number 4. How many days did Prophet Salih alayhi salam tell them to wait for their punishment? Right in the front.
3.
3 days. 3 days, right? There you go. Make sure you catch it. There we go. MashaAllah. طيب. Name 3 books of hadith that the incident with the camel urine was recorded in. Yeah, let's get a sister now. Right? Name 3 books of hadith. Name 3 books of hadith in which the story of the camel urine was recorded in. Meaning when the Prophet ﷺ told them to drink the urine of the camel and the milk of the camel. Right? Name 3 books of hadith. Who is that? Sunan of who? Ibn Majah, okay. Good. Ahsanti. It's like behind the thing.
Give it to who?
Try throw it over? Okay. Okay. I don't know where to throw it. Okay. Here you go. There we go. MashaAllah. طيب. So, like we mentioned, it was in 5 of the six books of hadith. Bukhari, Muslim, and then the sister mentioned Ibn Majah. طيب. How did Allah Azza wa Jal destroy Thamud? How were they destroyed? Right? Everybody pay attention, right? How was the people of Thamud destroyed? Right here, yeah.
With a sound.
With a?
With a sound.
Good, with a sound, right? A huge blast, right? A huge deafening noise that destroyed them, as well as what?
Earthquake.
An earthquake. There you go. Here you go. Catch it.
Because I helped him.
No cheating, right, guys? No cheating. طيب, what are the 6 books of hadith? What are all the 6 books of hadith? I see a lot less hands now. Why is that? I feel like choosing somebody. Who's not raising their hands? Brother Ammar. Brother Ammar, let's hear it. Give it a shot. Give it a shot. No. Guys, no calling out. No calling out. I'll help you out, right? Come on, the most easiest one.
Abu Dawood.
Abu Dawood, good.
Sahih Muslim.
Sahih Muslim.
Tirmidhi.
At-Tirmidhi.
Ibn Majah.
Ibn Majah. Come on, the most authentic book after the Quran. You said Muslim. With Muslim there's?
Bukhari.
Bukhari, that's 5. Yeah, one more.
I give it Musari chocolate. You want it?
Okay. No, we said that. Nope, we said that. We said that. Come on. Anybody? An-Nasa'i, right? Sunan An-Nasa'i. طيب. طيب. Okay, طيب. Okay, Ismail. Wait, you already got it, didn't you? Yeah, but I said another one. Okay, fine. Here you go. Make sure you catch it, right? Awesome, mashallah. Ahsanta. طيب, question number 8. What did Salih tell his people to let the camel do? What did he tell his people to let the camel do? Fatima.
Drink the water.
Drink water, that's it? I want everything. Leave it alone, drink water, and what else? And don't kill it. What else? If you drink, you also... Not to cook it. You have to kill it to cook it. And to eat, right? To eat from the earth, to drink the water, and to leave it alone, right? Fatima, make sure you catch. Catch it.
Come on.
There we go. Ahsanti, mumtaz. طيب, how much... Okay, now it's going to get a little harder, right? How much can a camel grow to weigh? Right? How much can a camel grow to weigh? Abdurrahman.
500 pounds.
500 pounds. Good, mashallah. Good. Okay, good. This one is really hard, right? You guys, if you've been paying attention to the lecture, inshallah, you're gonna get this one, right? Huh? No. Everything is 1, right? And you already got 2, by the way. How much water can a camel drink in 5 minutes? Think carefully. Hold on. So calling out. Nadia.
50 liters.
No. Guys, we gotta raise our hands. Nobody call out. Amadou.
How much?
250. No. Musa. 500. There we go. Right?
Wow!
No, wrong. You're confusing me with the numbers. No, it's not 500.
50 liters. 55.
He cheated. He called out first, so I don't know what to do. I think I'm gonna skip this one. I'm gonna have another question for this, inshallah. طيب.
No, only I go to Wellspring.
طيب. I want somebody. This is my next question, right?
Ask a difficult question.
Ask a hard one.
What areas do camels live in? That I've mentioned. What areas do camels live in, right? Yeah.
Asian Africa?
Good, Asian Africa.
Come on!
There we go.
So easy. Easy question.
Good. طيب, how long on average does a camel live? Raise your hand. Nobody call out. I think we called enough brothers.
Come on.
40 to 50 years. Ahsanti. Good. Here you go. There we go. Okay. طيب. We mentioned something. Hopefully you guys remember this. That camels, right? Normally, animals normally, when they lose a certain percentage of water, they die. But camels can lose this percent of water. I want two things. I want the percentage of water other animals would die from if they lose, and I want the amount of water that a camel can lose up until and still live. Khadija?
15 and 20.
Let's have, I want somebody I haven't called on yet. I called it you guys enough. Musa.
Come on.
15 for regular animals, 25 for camels.
Wrong answer.
He got it correct. He got it correct.
Yes. There we go. Excellent.
I go to
All right, here you go. Make sure you catch it, right? Oh, there you go. طيب, so that's it for my questions, right? Inshallah ta'ala, you guys can ask. I think. What's a surprise? That was a surprise. That was a surprise, right? All right, guys. So you guys get to ask whatever questions you want. It doesn't have to be about the lecture. Anything you want, inshallah. You guys asked that last time. What else?
So, the description of the she-camel, was it that it was huge and red and it was pregnant?
Allah wanted me if I was pregnant. I don't know. What else? Any other questions? No other questions? Musa?
Assalamu alaikum. For like how the woman used the camel urine and milk. So what does it only use for like diseases of for the digestive system or anything?
Well, I mean, I was actually, I read up a lot about this. I mean, in terms of like the studies that have been done. There are a lot of studies that have been done, and they do confirm that there's like, there's certain like, chemicals and whatnot inside of the urine of the camel, and they can be used for a lot of treatments. Like something that I didn't mention was that it could be used to treat wounds, right? It could be used to treat a lot of people. They even use it for hair, treatment as well. People who are going bald, people who need, even some women, right? It's mentioned that that women would use it to grow their hair longer. And it has a lot of benefits in terms of the skin. It has a lot of benefits in terms of, diseases that, happen inside of a person, like digestive diseases. And, it's also can be used for like symptoms of, a swollen liver, for example. That's, one of the usages of the camel urine that I read. And there are many other things that, that they're not coming to my mind now. But, but it is, established. And it's been used for, thousands of years, right? Camel urine has been used, by countless people over thousands of years to treat illnesses, right? Anybody else have any other questions?
There is.
Billy.
I heard you can't pray behind the camel. Is it true?
Okay, so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked about praying in the Prophet ﷺ was asked about the pens of the camels, right? The place, marabidil ibil, the places where they sleep, the places where they are kept, right? And that place has, everything that they would drop as they live there, right? And this is the place where they would sleep. This is the pen in which they would be kept. Now, the Prophet ﷺ, he forbade praying in the places where the camels are kept. But in terms of praying behind a camel, Allahu Alam, but it's narrated that the Prophet ﷺ prayed while he was on top of a camel, right? So Allahu Alam, in terms of anything, I don't know of anything, right? I don't know of any hadith or any text or any statement of any scholar prohibiting praying behind a camel or around the camel, but it's been established that the Prophet ﷺ prayed while he was on top of a camel, right? So Allahu Alam. Any other questions?
Yeah, there is a question from Facebook, from Sister Sumaya. The question is, will drinking the urine of the camel break your wudu?
Drinking the urine of the camel? Allahu Alam about the urine, right? But the Prophet ﷺ specifically mentioned luhum al-ibil. And the Prophet ﷺ didn't say the milk, he didn't say any other parts of the camel, but the Prophet ﷺ only said the meat, right? The flesh of the camel. So Allahu Alam about the urine, I don't know. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah, whatever you guys want. It's okay as well.
I wanted to ask about Surah Yasin. Like some people say it's a cure for people who are sick. You can read it around them and it will help, I don't know, cure them or alleviate them from some of their pains that they're going through. I don't know if there's any authenticity to that, but there is like a cultural thing with Surah Yasin and the sick. What do you know about that?
Okay, the thing is I don't know of any authentic narrations, but many scholars have mentioned that so many of these fada'il of Surah Yasin, they mention you do this and Surah Yasin is going to do this for you. You read it here, you read it there. You know, and there's so many like fabricated things about Surah Yasin, right? And just like you mentioned, there's like a very big cultural thing. Surah Rahman and Surah Yasin, they're like, you know, some people, they just love these surahs, right? And we love these surahs as well, but to attack specific virtue and legislate specific, and to claim that there's specific acts of worship, that are around Surah Yasin that are not established from the Prophet ﷺ is a mistake. So many of the scholars, they mentioned that a lot of these, virtues of Surah Yasin, that they are all weak, right? But specifically, if it can be used as a cure, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions that the Quran is a cure, right? And it's mentioned that, that many of, like it was narrated that the companions radiallahu anhu, one of them, they recited Surah Al-Fatiha upon a man that was stung, right? And Surah Al-Fatiha was a cure for that man. So the thing is, reciting the Quran in general is a cure. And I've even, one of my mom's friends, like my mom was even telling me that one of her friends, she had breast cancer as well, right? She had cancer, and just from like treatment from the Quran, it eventually went away. Right? It eventually went away. So Allahu Alam, specifically about Surah Yasin, but the Quran in general is a cure, right? Is a cure. So Allahu Alam, I don't know specifically about that. Any other questions? No? طيب. There's one issue though, that I wanted, I was thinking about mentioning, and that is in terms of ruku'. Right? In terms of going into sujood, right? There's one, there's a hadith that is narrated when the Prophet ﷺ says, لا يبرك أحدكم بروك الإبل أو كما يبرك الإبل, right? أو كما يبرك البعير. None of you should come down into sujood. So whenever you're making sujood, right? You get up from ruku', you say سمع الله لمن حمده, and then you're going down into sujood. Do you put your knees first, or do you put your hands first? Clearly, from what we can see from the people calling out, is that there's a difference of opinion, and there is a difference of opinion, right? The majority of scholars, they say that the knees should be put down, as At-Tirmidhi mentions when he narrated the hadith of Wa'il ibn Hujr radiallahu anhu, where the Prophet ﷺ says to put the knees down. Right, Wa'il ibn Hujr radiallahu anhu, he says that I saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam put his knees down before his hands. Right? So when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, according to this narration, this companion saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam coming down from standing into sujood, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam put his knees down before his hands, then he put his hands. Right? And there's another hadith narrated, and this is the hadith of Abu Hurairah, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, another narration, says none of you should come down to sujood like the camel, right? And he should put his hands first, then his knees, right? So there's one narration saying that this companion saw the Prophet ﷺ going down with his knees first. And there's another narration, which is the hadith of Abu Hurairah, that says that the Prophet ﷺ went down with his hands first. And that narration mentions that you shouldn't come down like the camel. Rather, you should come down with the hands first, then the knees. So many of the scholars, they try to reconcile the proofs, right? And many of the scholars, like Ad-Darqutni, he mentions that the hadith that mentions that this companion saw the Prophet ﷺ going down with his knees first is weaker than the one that says the Prophet ﷺ went down with his hands first, right? So in terms of textual proofs, right, we don't have time to go through all of the different narrations that prove which one is correct. But in terms of authenticity, in terms of sanad-wise, the muhaddithun, they mention that going down on the hands first is more authentic, right? But there's a problem here, right? There is a problem here. It's because the camel is very important. It's at the camel's knees. Where are the camel's knees? In the hands. So those who say you should, the Prophet ﷺ forbade, according to the narration, going down into sujood like a camel. And the Prophet ﷺ says that you should put your hand first in that narration, then your knees. So those who say, that you shouldn't resemble the camel and you should go down into sujood, in a way unlike the camel, they say that you should go down with your hands first, then your knees. The other side, they say that, the camel, right? The camel goes down with his knees first, then, that's what it puts down first, its knees. Right? So the thing is, right, the knees of the camel is in its hands. So those who want to say that you put your hands first, the camel is kind of a proof for them, right? Because the camel puts his hands first, right? The front limbs. And those who say you should put the knees first, the camel can also be a proof for them because the knees of the camel is in the front. So you have a clear difference of opinion here. And this is what caused many of the scholars to say that all of the ahadith in this issue are all weak. And they all have weakness. Right? They all have weakness, right? The scholars who take one view, they say the other hadiths that prove the other point are weak, and vice versa, right? So at the end of the day, many scholars, they mention that all of the hadith, all of them, they all have defects and they're all weak. And it's narrated authentically from Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu that he made sujood with his knees first, then his hands. And it's also narrated in Bukhari. Bukhari mentions a hadith without an isnad from Nafi', the student of Ibn Umar, who said that I saw Ibn Umar go down with his hands first, then his knees. So we have Umar, who is the dad, right, the father. He went down with his knees first, and it's narrated that his son Ibn Umar, who are all, both of these are great companions, right? And Umar, we know Umar is one of the best companions. But Ibn Umar went down with his hands first. So this is what caused many of the scholars like Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala to mention that the scholars all have consensus that it's permissible to do both. But they only differ as to which one is better. So this is what caused many of the scholars to say that whichever one is easier for you, then that's the one you should do. Right? That's the one you should do. Right? And it's an issue that, as I say, all of the hadith in this issue are all weak. Right? And you should do that which is easiest for you. So like I mentioned, there's a difference of opinion in this issue, and it has to do with the camel. So I wanted to mention, but we had a little bit of time, inshallah ta'ala, and Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best.
There is a question from Facebook, from Atef Chisti. What was reference mentioning shaitan is on the back of the camels? Can you remind us of that reference?
What was that?
He's asking about the reference mentioning shaitan is on the back of the camels.
Okay, in terms of the camel and the shaitan, I haven't mentioned that. I've mentioned that specific narration, but I didn't mention the part about the shaitan. And Allahu Alam, specifically, I can't mention the specific source for right now. Maybe I'll speak to Atif later, inshallah. Does anybody have any other questions before we stop? Huh?
We learned a lot today.
Okay,
yeah.
No basketball.
Inshallah. Brother Amar?
No, I just want to say that rather than worrying about whether your hands or your knees go first, yeah, people don't even go down with either or both. They don't even pray when the day come. So
they pray with what?
I said they don't even pray when the day come. They don't pray salah. So worrying about the hands and the knees is minor things when it comes to the bigger issues,
Of course, it's a minor issue, but it's still an issue nevertheless for those of us who do pray, right? So whichever one is easier for you, inshallah ta'ala. Then that's what you should do, right? طيب, so we'll stop here inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.